Hello students, this is Prerna Rastogi and I welcome you all in Blooming Birds Co-ed online classes. I am your SST teacher and today I will continue the further topics of chapter 1st, a period of transition. In my previous video, I told you about the development of European countries and about the development of Indian and what were the sources, how we can know about the transition period. Okay, now in history class 8th I will continue the first chapter and now we'll continue the further topics. So in this way we will study about the Renaissance. Renaissance was a period of rebirth, new thinking, new cultural and scientific approach. So that is called the Renaissance, rebirth of the new thinking, revival of the old thinking. Means from our culture, from our civilization, they studied about the how they can improve the society. Because when they studied about the civilization, the earlier civilization, so they have to know about the society, how they can change the society. So now they have started to rethink, to reform themselves, right, to questioning. So this type of things, it was the period of Renaissance. So in Renaissance was a Latin word, and by this word the meaning of this word is rebirth or revival. So now we'll see some features of Renaissance. So what had happened? What had happened when the Renaissance was going on in the society? So the first feature of the Renaissance, that is humanism. Now what is humanism? Right? What was the need of the humanism? So in this period, in the humanism, the need to value human emotions. What was the humanism? Before that, there was no value of the emotions of human beings, because feudalism were there, so church were controlling the condition and the situation and also the society at that time. So the nobles and the pope of church is controlling the society. So when the humanism developed, so in that way, what had developed? The need to value human emotions and dignity rather than religious belief. What they were believing in the religious belief, what they were believing, that is not good for the humans. That was not good for the humans. So we have to change themselves. So likewise, they have changed the thinking and they started that we have to need to value human emotions and dignity rather than the religious beliefs. So because all were believing, means all were thinking everything according to the religious matters, according to the superstitious things, right? They were believing that things, but there was no base of the superstitious things and not the exact base of some religious beliefs, right? So they wanted to change, means humanism in this period had changed the thinking of the humans and now they value the emotions and dignity of humans. So contrary to moral rigidity of religions at that time, during the transition period before that, so contrary to moral rigidity of religions, because all at that time religion were very rigid in the society, so all were following the religious beliefs. But when the humanism come, so they have changed the thinking. They were thinking about the emotions and dignity of themselves, and same here, it was the contrary to moral rigidity of religions. Now humanism stresses on man's right to pleasure, right? So humanism stresses on the man's right to pleasure. So in this way, some humanists had come during this period. In this way, the first, that is the Giovanni Boccaccio, he was a humanist, and also Francisci Petrarch, and also Francesco Petrarch and Giovanni Boccaccio, two were the humanists during this period who changed the thought, who changed the thinking of human beings and who transferred the thinking from the religious belief, from the superstitious power to the value of pleasure or man's right to pleasure, that he has to be pleasure and he has to use the everything of the worldly life. So that was humanism. In that, people changed the thinking, and there were two important humanists, that is Franco Petrarch and Giovanni Boccaccio. Now come to the spirit of inquiry. By the humanism, when humanism came in the world, so by the humanism, when they want to pleasure themselves, so now they were asking the question, they were inquiry everything. So scholars acquired knowledge through scientific approach. It was based on a systematic process of observation, experimentation and conclusion. At that time, when they have to think themselves rather than the religious beliefs, now they were questioning, and now they were giving the preference to the scientific approach. Why it had happened in the world, what was the reasons behind this, so everything they were noticing. So by the spirit of inquiry, the scholars acquired knowledge through the scientific approach. And all the scientific approach based on three things. Number one, observation. Number two, experimentation, and then conclusion. So they were doing the scientific things, means they were doing all the matters they were solving rather than the religious beliefs on the basis of three things. First they observing, then experimenting, and then they were themselves putting themselves on the conclusion, right? So likewise they improved the spirit of inquiry. So it taught human beings to question, right? By this spirit of inquiry, they were questioning why it had happened and how it had happened. So likewise, when they were questioning, right, so they were solving the problems by this approach. So they were following the system of process. So in this way, they were exploring themselves, they were experimenting, the expeditions to probe into every realm of knowledge, means they were using the knowledge and they were doing these all things in the systematic process. Now come to the rationalism. What was the rationalism? So the scholars of Renaissance period known as rationalist, right, as the scholars of the humanism period called humanist. Same in the rationalism period, scholars who were belongs to this rationalist period, they were calling rationalist. So people began to question and established ideas and principles of religion and developed a rational outlook. Means before that they were not know about the history, right? When they read, when they know about the civilization, about the early civilization, because around 8th century they were far from the heritage. Heritage means what the nature has given, what they were having themselves, they don't know about this, because from the around 8th century they were far from the heritage. Okay, now when they know themselves, when they overcome from the religious beliefs, so now they were questioning, and now they come to be known as they came as rationalism. Now here they have started to question and established ideas. They established ideas and principles of religions. Means what were the ideas behind the religious matters, and they were made the principles. So likewise rationalists rejected all the all the things that was based on the superstitious power. Means they were rejecting all these things, because now they were questioning and now they were observing and experiment everything. Now they want to know what was the exact reason behind any superstitious power, any superstitious things, because at that time church having the whole power of the society, and whatever they were saying for their benefits, all the people were following the same. So likewise they were torturing, right? Likewise the Pope of church and the church and the monasteries, they were having their nobles. So likewise they were torturing, okay, to show the superstitious power and to show the religious beliefs. So likewise they overcome from the power of the superstitious power of the church and refuse to follow the teachings and authorities blindly. Means whatever church power will say to us, we will not follow. First we will question why it had happened, what had happened, and how it had happened, right? So likewise they know about the other things. Likewise they experimenting themselves, they exploring themselves, and now they expanding themselves. So likewise they overcome from the religious beliefs. So they developed rational thinking and judged everything on the basis of reason. Now they were thinking on the basis of reason, right? That is rationalism. In this period they were questioning. Now come to the glorification of human form, right? This is also an important feature of Renaissance. So glorification of human form. So scholars glorified the human body, and humans were capable of knowing and controlling the world and fashioning his own happiness. In this period, now they were paying attention on the pleasure, on the happiness of themselves. So by this they were full. Their work was full of faith that a man with an active mind and body was capable of knowing and controlling the world, right? Means they all were having a full of faith that a man with an active mind, right? Now they trusting themselves, now they overcome from the religious beliefs, and now they were questioning, and now they glorified themselves. If you improve yourself, if you improve your thinking, so you glorify yourself. And now they were paying the emotions and the dignity of human beings. So likewise they glorified of human form. Okay, so in the Renaissance and the features of all these things, you understood how they improved themselves. Now come to the impact of Renaissance. Impact of Renaissance, the Renaissance left a deep impact on the every aspect of the painting, architecture, literature, and also science and technology. All these things affected or impact have seen of the Renaissance. So the artists of the Renaissance period for themselves from medieval ages, means they transform themselves from the medieval age to the modern age, means they were developing themselves. So during this period they transformed themselves. So it was regarding the religious beliefs. Before the transition they were believing all these that on the religious basis, means they were thinking only on the religious basis, but now they developed their thinking as in the painting. Before the transition period, painting was only on the basis of religious matters, but now they painted directly on the platforms and also on the walls, right? They were directly painting and they were making the real paintings by the emotions they were affecting themselves. Means they were making the paintings by which means they were showing in the painting all the emotions, right? Before that the paintings based on the religious basis, but now after Renaissance the painting transformed, and now the painters doing painting according to the emotions. They were showing the emotions in the painting, right? As Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo and Raphael was the great painter of this period, and they also developed themselves and their techniques of the painting. They have started oil painting also in this period. So they were making the different kind of paintings, and in this period these three were the important painters. Now come to the literature. During this period in painting, one more thing that is left, that is sculpture. sculpture also. They developed the sculpture system. As the Michelangelo, they made the Pieta statue. In that statue, Mary is having the dead body of Jesus Christ, and in that painting he had shown the emotions, how they were crying, how she was crying, right? So, and how she is feeling when she lost her son. So this type of emotional paintings developed during the transition period. Okay, so likewise they were making the sculpture also. They were making the different kind of statues and a detailed study of human anatomy. They were showing all these things, all the emotions on the sculpture, the grace and beauty of the human body, and that were showing by the sculptures of some creative sculptors. So the outstanding sculpture Renaissance period, there Donatello was a very flourished sculptor during the transition period. So he shows the many kind of emotions in their sculptures. So a statue that called Pieta shows the Mother Mary, and in Mary in a seated posture. In a seated posture, as I told you, he made Mary's seated posture, and she is having the dead body of Jesus Christ, means her son, and how she is feeling, how she was crying. So this type of emotions shows in the painting and sculpture during the Renaissance period. Now come to the literature. As during this period, invention of the printing press by Gutenberg. Gutenberg discovered the printing press, and by the printing press, so many authors were there who improved their literature by reading the books, and they were emphasizing on the human nature. They were emphasizing on the human's dignity. So they were developing the literature also themselves, and by the printing press it was a huge change in the society, because by reading the books in their own languages, means before that they were following the Latin language, but now in the common language all the books were available, so easily people can read and they can change themselves, their thoughts and the thinking way. So in this way some literatures were there in society. The authors tried to highlight the problems faced by the men during this period, right? So by the writing of the authors, by the literature system, they improve themselves and they improve their society by the literature. Now come to the science and technology. At this time, so many, because during the scientific of inquiry, so they were questioning, all the people were questioning why it had happened, what it had happened. So in this form, so many scientists came in front and they proved themselves that whatever they were reading and they were knowing by the church system, that was wrong. In this way, that Copernicus, a Polish astronomer, he was an astronomer. Copernicus was an Polish astronomer and proved that the earth revolves around the sun. Before that, the church system was saying that the earth was in the center and all the planets revolving the earth. But when Copernicus proved and they discovered a telescope. So by this he proved that the earth revolving the sun. So Copernicus proved this thing. Later on, a German scientist, John Kepler, he proved that the earth and the other planets Earth and the other planets revolving in the spherical form of the sun. Means before that they were saying that in the round form they were revolving, but now the Kepler proved that the planets and the earth revolving the sun in the spherical form, not in the circular orbit. And also Galileo invented the telescope and he discovered the Milky Way, that is made up of stars. Means Galileo discovered the telescope during the Renaissance time, and he proved that there was a Milky Way, a group of stars in the sky. Sir Isaac Newton discovered the famous law of gravitational force. Isaac Newton discovered, when maybe you have heard the story that an apple fallen down on the earth. So he was thinking why it is fallen down on earth, why it is not going here and there. So by this they have done the discovery. He was questioning at that time, and he discovered that on earth there was a gravitational force, by that the earth attracting everything. So Isaac Newton proves this. Gutenberg invented the printing press, which helped in spreading knowledge through books. All these experiments also printed in the by the printing press. So by this they know, means all the people know about the scientific approach, about the all scientific reasons. What were the reasons behind all the whatever happened in the world. So the most significant discovery in the field of medicine was made by the English physician, that is William Harvey. William Harvey, he discovered that the blood, how the blood circulates in our body, and it comes from the heart, right? It comes from the earth through the arteries in the various parts of our body. Means blood is come from the heart, and it goes to by the arteries, it goes to the whole body, means various parts of the body. So it's discovered by William Harvey. Likewise, the architects of the Renaissance period freed themselves from the medieval rules and traditions. Means whatever Middle Ages rules and traditions they were following, so the architecture freed themselves by the old rules and their traditions. So now they developed themselves, and now they improved their thinking power by the Renaissance period. So in this period, the Renaissance means the rebirth of new thinking, new solutions, and questioning themselves. So by this they have known about the, means so many change have seen in the world. And first Renaissance has started in the 14th century in Italy. Okay students, so I am sure everything is clear for you. What was the impact of the Renaissance, what was Renaissance, and also what was the features of Renaissance. So in my further video I will explain the further topics. So watch the video carefully and try to understand each and every topic. If you have any query related to the topics, then you may ask me on WhatsApp group. Thanks for watching my video.